Good evening, everybody. This is Guy Andrews in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I'm here to host a webinar presentation on designing weight management programs, why the 3,500 calorie per pound rule is dead. We're going to get started here. Those, by the way, are my kids. Looking out the window, there was an iguana in the front yard who was making them crazy. If I can figure out how to get them off the screen, we'll be good to go. And we're off. I know that I know many of you guys over the years, but for those of you guys who I have not met, again, my name is Guy Andrews. I'm the Executive Director of Exercise, etc. I'm based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I've been doing this for going on 25 years now. In terms of my educational background, I've got a master's degree in education. I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist. I've got a whole slew of different certifications. My main work right now is with older adults, teaching senior boot camps and brains and balance programs for older adults. But I've done an awful lot of weight management over the years as well, and weight management consulting. And over the last 35 years or so that I've worked in fitness, I've done group fitness, personal training, boot camp. I've worked cardio rehab and hospital-based wellness, parks and recreation, which is where I'm working right now. So I've worked in a whole slew of different environments over the years. I know that all of you guys will be riveted by this information, but I also know that you would like to get a CEC certificate as well, so you can get your continuing education credits. And what you see here on this screen is the process by which you will get your continuing education certificates. It's all pretty self-explanatory. This page is in your handout, and this page will appear at the very end of the webinar, in which I'll explain it in more detail. But basically what you'll do is when you're done, you'll go onto our website, enter some very basic information, and print out your continuing education certificate right then and there. Okay, we take a look at the idea of weight management and about the idea of what is popular and trendy. We've just got some hot topics in weight management these days, and we'll touch on all of them one way or another. But the main thing we're taking a look at is obesity, the root causes of obesity, and more importantly, how we can help our clients to achieve a reasonable weight loss. Really the beginning of the modern weight management era began back in 2009 with the publication of a very influential book called The End of Overeating by Dr. David Kessler. You might know that name. He was the head of the Food and Drug Administration during the Clinton presidency. And what Dr. Kessler said pretty much right off the bat of his book was kind of like heresy in weight management and in fitness at that time. Because he said what many people had thought of for a long period of time, but no one quite dared to put into words because it's not very politically correct. You know, very often people would explain that they were heavy because of glandular issues, metabolism, they're big boned, hormonal issues, and so forth. But what Dr. Kessler said, and he pretty much laid down the gauntlet, is quite simple. People who are fat eat more than people who are lean. And with that one little sentence, the modern weight management industry was begun. Now, those of us who work in fitness have always had as part of our belief system the idea that exercise will pretty much cure anything that ails us. If you're sick, exercise more. If you're heavy, exercise more. If you don't want to die, exercise more. But it's really simplistic. And once Dr. Kessler put the wheels in motion, more and more research was being done into the roots of obesity. In 2012, the World Health Organization jumped on the bandwagon, and they issued a position statement that, again, was virtually heresy to those of us who work in fitness. What they said was that people are not fat because they exercise too little. They are fat because they eat too much. Again, a completely different perspective than what we had seen in the past, where many of us believed, many of us were teaching our clients, move more, exercise more. We are certainly not diminishing the importance of movement and the importance of exercise, but what we now know is that if people are serious about weight loss, they must eat less. And there's all kinds of different ways we can go with this statement. But basically, the emerging consensus opinion, and where the research is taking us these days, is that if people want to lose weight, they must eat less. If they want to keep the weight off, they need to integrate exercise into their lifestyle. Again, one more time. If people want to lose weight, they need to eat less. If they want to keep it off, they need to integrate exercise into their lifestyle. What we're going to see, and hopefully I'll make a compelling point, what we're going to see is that for many people who are trying to lose weight, especially if they're trying to lose 10, 20, 25, 50, 100 pounds or more, they simply cannot exercise enough to lose the desired amount of weight. They simply cannot burn enough calories through exercise alone. What's more, and this becomes very problematic, if they have got the motivation and the physiological base to do higher intensity exercise, yes, they will burn off more calories. But the downside of high intensity exercise is that people often are very, very hungry afterwards. And the hunger associated with higher intensity exercise may make them overeat or overindulge and actually consume more calories than they were burning off during the exercise. So the emerging opinion is that we have got to eat less to weigh less. That was 2012. 2013, the New England Journal published an extremely influential research paper that they called 10 obesity myths. And what they did was they looked at 10 different aspects of weight management, weight loss, weight control, and they subjected them to new scrutiny and new research. And what they found across the board was the top 10 myths you saw here, or you see here on the page, were not able to be justified by the current research. Now, if any of you guys have taken our webinar on obesity myths and misconceptions, you went over this slide in some detail. But the one we're going to take a look at right now as we move forward is number 10. And what the New England Journal found is a major myth and misconception was that losing 3,500 calories will result in a weight loss of 1 pound. We now know that is a dramatic oversimplification of the science of weight loss. So that was in early 2013, but we're not done. Because in mid-2013, the American Medical Association jumped in the bandwagon and relabeled obesity no longer as a condition, but as a chronic disease. And this opened up a whole new can of worms. Because with obesity as a disease, now we are going into the mindset of whether or not obesity is an illness, whether or not obesity is not something to be managed, but is something to be cured. You see, there's a whole different connotation with disease versus condition. We are also apparently seeing some heavy people who are adopting a victim mentality. Woe is me, I have a disease, which whether or not we agree with the American Medical Association assessment is actually a moot point. But what we can say with certainty is if it is a disease, as it is now classified, and far be it from any of us to argue with the American Medical Association, we need to be aware that there are diseases that are the direct result of lifestyle, and that the choices we make on our life journey can influence our disease, our health, our longevity. If somebody is diagnosed with lung cancer, we would certainly never be cruel enough to say, oh, well, you've smoked for 30 years, what did you expect? But realistically, the choice to smoke cigarettes is very often a contributing factor to the diagnosis of lung cancer. We know that people who are type 2 diabetics are overwhelmingly obese. And what led to their obesity is a contributing factor in many cases to their diabetes. And of course, we are not speaking in complete generalizations. There are people who smoke for 50 years and die peacefully in their sleep with lungs as clear as a bell or as clean as a whistle, however you want to say it. There are people who have never smoked cigarettes a day in their life who die of lung cancer. There are heavy people that live to a ripe old age, and there are lean people that are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. We know all this. But the bottom line is that in many cases, the lifestyle choices we make do, in fact, contribute to the disease process, affect our quality of life, and our longevity. But just for the record, obesity, as of June 2013, is now classified as a chronic disease. Now, where we're going with all this is, if our goal is to help our clients to achieve weight loss, how do we do this? You know, the prevailing research is telling us that it's a matter of eating less. And what we still know, as of right now, is that weight management is calories in versus calories out. If you eat more than you burn, you will gain weight. If you eat less than you burn, you will lose weight. It's the foundation of all weight management, but unfortunately, the wild card that we are seeing right now is how much are we burning? How much do we need to burn? How many calories must we eliminate to lose that pound of fat? And that brings us to the question of why we overeat. You know, as a species, we are hardwired to overeat. We, as a species, are pretty much predisposed to put on weight in the summer and fall, just like a bear getting ready for the winter, to put on weight in the summer and fall so that we've got a layer of fat, an accumulation of fat, to get us through the winter and the spring when food supplies are not current. The trouble is that in the 21st century, in modern America, we have got food options everywhere. And three things that were traditionally hard to come by, salt, sugar, and fat, are now everywhere. And we're still, though, hardwired to overeat. This is really the roots of the modern obesity epidemic. Now, there's a phrase in the South, and I dearly love this phrase, that says, everyone wants to go to heaven, but no one wants to die. That is very often the mentality of people who want to lose weight. They want to lose weight, but they're not willing to suffer. And suffer is a bad word. I'll take that back. They're not willing to sacrifice. No one wants to suffer, but they're not willing to sacrifice. And many of you guys have probably seen, you know, at the time this webinar was recorded in March of 2016, the Oprah Winfrey commercial for Weight Watchers was all over TV. You really can't even turn on the TV on some channels right now without seeing this commercial about every 30 seconds. And if you've lived a sheltered existence, you know, the gist of this commercial is that Oprah loves bread. And on Weight Watchers, she was able to achieve a weight loss of 26 pounds while eating bread every day. Now, to those of us who are in fitness and who are a little bit cynical, we might say, well, Ms. Winfrey, if you did not eat bread, maybe you would have lost more weight. But apparently, this commercial has been wildly successful, and people are flocking to Weight Watchers in unprecedented numbers at the thought that they can lose weight without having to sacrifice. Why? Because everyone wants to go to heaven, but no one wants to die. Now, just the terminology we use and talk about weight loss is inappropriate, because what we say is we want to lose weight. How much weight do you want to lose? When what we should be saying is how much fat do you want to lose? What is your appropriate level of fat loss? And we've got to take a step back and ask ourselves the question, what is fat? Well, fat, or adipose tissue, is a combination of different things. A pound of what we call generically fat is more appropriately referred to as a pound of adipose tissue. And in that pound of adipose tissue, we have got pure fat mass, plus water, plus some lean mass, plus cholesterol and triglycerides, and assorted other odds and ends. A pound of adipose tissue is absolutely not the same as a pound of fat. And that becomes the central premise of the modern approach to weight management, and the way and the reason why many researchers have looked at that 3,500 calorie rule as being inappropriate and inappropriately simplistic in the modern era. So again, fat is pure body fat. Adipose tissue is a combination of different substances. And when we say we are losing fat, typically we are not losing pure fat, we are losing adipose tissue. Now, the conventional wisdom, and this is what probably all of us have been taught, is that 3,500 calories equals a pound of body fat. This means if you decrease your caloric intake by 500 calories a day, you will lose a pound of fat per week. It means if you increase your caloric intake by 500 calories a day, you will gain 1 pound per week. This was documented in the Journal of the AMA in a patient handout as recently as September of 2014. Now, in September of 2014, the research was already starting to accumulate that a pound of fat might not be 3,500 calories. But this has worked its way into our consciousness. We've been taught it for so long. We've heard it for so long. We have taught it to our clients for so long that we have come to regard this as gospel. And what it really is an oversimplification of the science. And when you think of it, of this conventional wisdom that we've all learned, and, you know, I learned this when I was in school. I've spent years teaching exam preparation programs for people trying to earn their personal training certification, and this was the line, lock, stock, and barrel, that we always recited. It is still in virtually all fitness textbooks that you can think of. But let's take it a step closer, or let's take a look at it a little bit closer. We all know people who have legitimately tried to lose weight, and they have tried to follow this formula, and it did not work. I've had many clients who were doing everything they were supposed to. They were doing it right. They cut their calories. They increased their activity. They were burning 500 calories per day and still not losing a pound of fat per week. What we typically would do in fitness was we would somehow blame the client. We'd say things like, what are they eating that they're not telling us? Are they really working out when they say they are? And we would find a way to blame the client. Now, can you imagine anything more demotivating, anything more disheartening or stressful than you are the heavy client who has been told categorically that losing 500 pounds, that'd be a good trick, that losing 500 calories per day would absolutely result in a weight loss of 1 pound per week, knowing you were doing everything right and not seeing the scale change to the magnitude that you were promised. Also, think of some other things that you have seen, purely anecdotally. We'll get to the research momentarily. Have you ever noticed that very often heavy people have a really, really hard time losing weight, but lean people seem to drop weight very, very easily? Have we not seen the client, the friend, the loved one who has reduced calories and not lost weight the way they would expect to? See, the trouble with this rule of lose 3,500 calories and you'll lose a pound of fat is it's being presented as a mathematical equation. And that's the problem, because mathematical equations always have the same end result. 5 times 5 will always equal 25. That is not negotiable. 144 divided by 12 will always equal 12. Again, not negotiable. If this 3,500 calorie rule really is realistic, every person who loses 3,500 calories should lose a pound of fat. Every person who increases their caloric intake or gains 3,500 calories should gain a pound of fat. And you know what? That's not that simple either. We're currently on spring break here in South Florida, and I had my two teenage nephews were coming to visit, a 15-year-old and a 17-year-old. And I had forgotten how much teenage boys can eat. And based on what they are eating and their activity level, there is no way that they are burning off all that they are eating. But you know what? They're rail thin. They are not gaining a pound. They're probably eating 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 calories a day. I'm exaggerating, but they're eating a lot, but they're not putting weight on. How about that heavy person you know, a heavy friend, a heavy loved one, that they are eating way, way more than they are burning, but they get to the point where they stop putting weight on. They're not gaining weight continually. Yes, they've got a caloric surplus, but why do they stop gaining weight? So what we're seeing is this conventional wisdom is just not holding true. And more, we are seeing this whole rule of 3,500 calories equaling a pound of fat is nothing more than bad science. It's an oversimplification of the arithmetic that is no longer holding water in the modern era. An estimate, and I'll share with you where this estimate came from, but this estimate was printed in the journal Today's Dietitian, found that about 35,000 educational books and textbooks have referenced this 3,500 calorie rule. It's been around forever. Even the roots of it are a little bit fuzzy, but it's been around forever. A British researcher whom I revere, I'll share her information later in the program. Her name is Zoe Holcomb, spent about 8 months in Britain trying to find the roots of this 3,500 calorie rule, and she was going to the government, to the weight loss institutions, to the universities, and what she was finding over and over again, that nobody knew where that rule came from. It's everywhere, but no one knows where it came from. So when we take a look at where it came from, again, according to the journal Today's Dietitian, a researcher named Max Wishnowsky, way back in the 1950s, did some calculations. And the way he calculated it was okay at that time based on the science that we had almost 60 years ago. And he was the one that found that a pound of fat stores approximately 3,500 calories of energy. It's a very appealing formula. It's simple, and it's stuck. But what we're going to see is that Dr. Max's arithmetic was not all it could be. Here is the researcher from Britain that I mentioned earlier, Zoe Holcomb. There's her website. She's a researcher, author, blogger. She's got a PhD in nutrition. And what I love about her is that not only that she is so commonsensical, but she researches everything, and everything is meticulously documented. You may want to Google the term or go to her blog. You're pretty much guaranteed to find some fascinating stuff there that is challenging conventional wisdom and is all based on meticulous documentation. Okay, but let's go back to Dr. Max and where his arithmetic came from. How many calories are in a pound of adipose tissue? If you notice, I'm not calling it fat right now. I'm calling it adipose tissue. Okay, here's what we know. And this first part is just basic mathematical conversions for which there is no argument. 1 pound of anything, 1 pound is equal to about 454 grams. Now, as you probably remember, conventional wisdom says there are 9 calories per gram of fat. You know what? I just noticed that. I apologize. That is a typo there. Get rid of that. So there are 9 calories in a gram of pure fat. Okay? Now, that idea of there being 9 calories in a gram of fat, that is an average as well. If we take a look at the research, there could be anywhere from 8.5 calories to 9.5 calories in a gram of fat. So that number 9 is pretty much just a conventional average. But let's use some of these numbers. Let's go to the low end of the scale. If there are only 8.5 calories in a gram of fat, 454 times 8.5 is 3,859 calories. Okay? And again, that's just the arithmetic, virtually impossible to argue with. If there are 9.5 calories in a gram of fat, we do the arithmetic, and now we're up to a high of 4,313 calories. So if we take it on the surface, If we're trying to lose pure fat, we may have to burn anywhere from 3,859 calories to 4,313 calories to lose a pound of fat. Now, if we extend these numbers, that is a significant deviation from 3,500 calories that we've always been taught. And here's how they work the arithmetic. If we think of it going back just momentarily, the distinction between 3,500 calories to lose a pound of fat and 4,300 calories to lose a pound of fat, extended over time, snowballed, and that is a huge deviation. But as we said earlier, these numbers are based on a pound of pure fat. Adipose tissue contains water, lean mass, cholesterol, and fat. And a pound of adipose tissue can be anywhere between 60% and 90%, that's a zero there, and 90% of pure fat. So if you do the arithmetic based on the content of an individual's adipose tissue, they may need to lose anywhere from 2,315 calories to 4,322 calories to lose a pound of adipose tissue. Again, these numbers over time snowball, but we're still not done. Because some estimates say that, believe it or not, an individual, depending on the content of their adipose tissue, might need to lose as much as 8,000 to 9,000 calories to lose 1 pound of fat. Again, we're going to take a look at this in more detail, but right away as we take a look at the arithmetic and we take a look at the mathematics, we can see that the 3,500 calorie rule is wildly oversimplified, and for some people might be a gross underestimate of how many calories they need to lose a pound of fat. What this goes to now is what is the composition of their particular adipose tissue. As you know, again, no, we're going to be conversational just for a moment. If you've ever touched a heavy person, you know there's different types of fat. You know, there are some people who, if you touch their belly, it's kind of jiggly, like Jell-O, and kind of squishy. Some people, if you touch their belly, it's hard as a rock. This goes to the content of the adipose tissue. Somebody who's got the jiggly, what we call the jelly belly, their fat, their adipose tissue, has got a higher water content. Somebody who is hard as a rock, their adipose tissue has got a lower water content. And this is going to make a huge difference in determining how many calories they're going to lose, or how many calories they must lose to lose a pound of fat. And this becomes the crux of our entire discussion of bad science, because caloric reduction does not guarantee fat loss. Now, this is from some research that Zoe Holcomb shared on her blog, and it's going back to 2006. What they did was they took a group of people, I believe there were 600 or 700 people in this survey, and what they did was they kept extremely detailed food journals for a year to determine what their average caloric intake was per year, okay? Well, their average caloric intake on a daily basis for a year. And with that information, what they did was for the next year, they reduced their caloric intake by, on average, 600 calories per day, okay? So they had their baseline from their food journals in year one. In year two, they took that baseline and decreased their caloric intake by 600 calories per day. Now remember that it's been presented to us that losing 3,500 calories will absolutely result in a weight loss of 1 pound. Let's take a look at the results from this study that was conducted in Britain by the National Institute for Clinical Excellence. Okay? Now, if they decreased if they decreased caloric intake by 600 calories per day for 365 days in a year, over the course of a year, they would have lost 219,000 calories. That's the arithmetic. That's the arithmetic. 219,000 calories divided by 3,500 calories in a pound of fat would have resulted in an average weight loss of 62 pounds over the course of a year. That would have been the expected weight loss, 6,200 calories. 6,200 calories in a pound of fat. Okay, that background noise was for some reason Siri on my cell phone just decided to get involved. We don't want Siri. I apologize. Okay, so let's go back to where we were. So that would have resulted in a weight loss of 62 pounds in the course of a year. Now, among the participants in this study, the lowest weight loss was 0.8 of a pound over the course of a year. The highest weight loss was 17 pounds. The average weight loss was somewhere around 13 pounds over the course of a year. Not one of them, not even one, achieved a weight loss, as would have been expected, of 62 pounds over the course of a year. Now, if you were that person who legitimately reduced your caloric intake by 600 calories a day for an entire year and you lost 0.8 of a pound, how annoyed would you be? How demotivated, demoralized would you be? And again, you know, this research going back to 2006, it's been replicated several times, other studies, again, is kind of a slap into the face of the idea that weight loss can be reduced to a mathematical equation. But there's more coming. We're not done. When we take a look at the idea of the 3,500 calorie rule, a very influential study in Today's Dietitian back in November 2014 listed the different organizations who over time had refuted it. And when we take a look at it, there are now different ways to calculate weight loss that we're going to take a look at, different ways to calculate weight loss that are way more specific, way more exact, and show that weight loss is going to be way slower than we ever dreamed possible. In the modern weight loss projections, in the modern weight loss models, it's not just a matter of losing weight. We now know that the amount of weight, rephrase, the amount of fat we lose is determined by our age, our weight, our gender, and our body composition. One very influential study found that an inactive 35-year-old man who cut 500 calories a day from his diet would lose 23 pounds in the course of a year. This was based on a method that we'll take a look at momentarily called the Pennington formula. The Pennington formula does, in fact, factor in age, weight, gender, and body comp. So if we do the arithmetic, so this guy who eliminates 500 calories per day from his diet, it would take him a year to lose 23 pounds. If we use the old rule of 3,500 calories in a pound of fat, what that formula equates to was that he would lose 23 pounds in about 23 weeks or 6 months. If you do the arithmetic, this guy is losing a whopping almost 8,000 calories to lose a pound of fat. And this is based on a very, very highly regarded formula from a weight loss institute in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, called the Pennington formula. And we're going to take a look at this in some more detail, and I will give you some examples of how this works momentarily. So that is weight loss based on the Pennington formula. So realistically, what more and more researchers are saying is that our insistence on sticking with this old school methodology, that 3,500 calories is equal to losing a pound of fat, is literally setting our clients up for failure. Because realistically, it is not based in reality, it's not based in research, it's based on a oversimplified premise from 60 years ago. What you see here on the page, and I'm not going to read it to you, is a direct quote from Zoe Harcum on her blog in 2014, June of 2014, and I think it makes perfect sense, because what Ms. Harcum is saying is that she has a simple and reasonable request. She wants proof that the formula works, or she wants it banished. Why are we promoting something that is not being sustained by the research that we now know to be true, incorrect, and setting people up for failure? And the only way, according to her mindset, which, as you can probably guess, I kind of agree with, is there needs to be consistent evidence that each and every time a deficit of 3,500 calories is created, a pound of fat is lost. And the research is simply not there to sustain that. So we are, in effect, setting people up for failure. Now, if we can go on the premise, and hopefully I've made a pretty compelling case that the 3,500 calorie rule is dead, we need something in place. Here are the two newest methods that have got the most research and are the most highly regarded. I mentioned earlier the Pennington formula, based on the Biomedical Research Center in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And the one I'm going to spend a little bit of time on now is from the National Institute of Health, the Body Weight Planner. Unfortunately, I've only got an hour tonight to discuss this stuff, but if you want some more detail, if you want some more information, just Google the term Body Weight Planner or Weight Change Predictor, and you will pull up a vast assortment of data and documentation about how these methods work. They are based on very sophisticated mathematical formulas. They are very well researched and regarded, and it appears that the math works. That's the good news. The bad news is that when many of our clients see the reality of how long it's going to take them to lose their weight, it might be a huge demotivator for them. Because the bottom line is, weight loss is not going to be rapid. You know, you've probably heard the analogy that we don't gain weight that rapidly. I mean, we don't gain typically 25 pounds in 6 months. So why would we expect to lose 25 pounds in 6 months? Along with this new methodology comes the realization that we need to have new methods of motivation to keep our client motivated to lose weight. But here we go. Here's the Body Weight Planner. What these things on the screens are, my friends, is these are screenshots from the National Institute for Health's Body Weight Planner. I just factored in some numbers. I want to share this information with you so you know I'm just not making this information up, and so you can see how the arithmetic works. So here we have Ted. Ted is 38. He's 6 feet tall. He weighs 200 pounds. He is sedentary. He is inactive at home and at work. He is consuming, based on a food journal, about 3,200 calories per day. We went online to the BMI calculator, and his BMI is 27. If we take a look at 6 feet tall, 200 pounds and sedentary, he is not obese. He is overweight, but he is not obese. He is smack in the middle of the overweight category. So here's our test subject to see weight loss based on the Body Weight Planner. You with me? Here we go. Okay. Again, this is a screenshot. This is the actual planner. So we've got Ted, 200 pounds, male, 38, 6 feet tall. There's a really neat tool on this website to estimate your activity level. In this case, I plugged in that he was sedentary at home and sedentary at work, and his activity level came up to be a somewhat embarrassing 1.4. Okay? So these are the numbers that I plugged into the National Institute for Health Body Weight Planner. I chose, arbitrarily, a moderate goal weight, that he wants to lose 25 pounds of fat mass, that he wants to lose his 25 pounds over the course of 6 months, which means that because today is approximately March 22nd, that he wants to lose this weight in the next 6 months, give or take, by September 22nd of this year, okay? very, very moderate weight loss goal when you think of it. The idea of losing 25 pounds in 6 months, because if you remember, standard methodology in fitness is that we can lose 1 or 2 pounds of fat per week. Standard mindset in fitness is to lose 25 pounds. That could take anywhere from 12 to 25 weeks. The reality is wildly different. Here we go. Okay. Because Ted is going, he's motivated, he's going to try to lose weight not only by caloric reduction, but by changing his physical activity. We have factored in that good old Ted is going to increase his physical activity by 20% per week. What this factored in was that he was going to go for a brisk walk for 20 minutes, 4 days a week. There's a calculator there that you can play with, but that's really where that 20% number came from. A brisk walk, 20 minutes, 4 times a week, okay? So these are all the variables that we are factoring into this. And here are the results. Based on his weight loss goal of 25 pounds in 6 months, based on his stated intention to exercise 4 times a week for 20 minutes per session, this is the results of this bodyweight planner of what he would have to do calorically to meet that goal. And if Ted wanted to maintain his current weight of 200 pounds, there's a maintenance number. There is a number here that once he reaches his goal weight, the number of calories he will consume. But here's the number I want to focus on right now. Because for the next 6 months, in addition to exercising on a regular basis every single week, his daily caloric intake should go down to 2,087 calories per day. 2,087 calories per day. Those are the results. So to lose that 25 pounds in 6 months, he needs to increase his activity, and here's the good part, decrease his caloric intake by a whopping 1,000 calories per day. Decrease his caloric intake by 1/3. How realistic is this? How realistic is it that this 38-year-old sedentary man is going to increase activity and decrease caloric intake by that much? Can it be done? Of course it can. But we are now factoring in something else. How motivated is Ted? What we are now doing in our counseling sessions for our overweight clients is saying, dude, this is not going to be easy and it's not going to be fast. Because realistically, based on the research, based on our friend Miss Zoe from Britain, to do anything less is setting him up for failure. The idea is to let them know going into it, it's tough, it's not going to be easy, and how much are you willing to do to achieve this weight loss? How much is it worth to you? How valuable is this weight loss to you? I think we would agree that for many people who are not motivated, it's easier to just say, geez, forget it. I'll just stick with where I am. We've got to factor this into our weight loss as well. And one more time, if we take a look at some of the data I've shared with you, all based on research, all based on the prevailing emerging research, we can see pretty conclusively that the 3,500 rule is dead. And we're back to my friend Zoe. Zoe gets the last word this time. What she's saying is it's not enough that we quietly stop using the formula. You know, very often we just want to brush things under the rug. Why? Well, think of it, guys. If we've been telling our clients for our entire career that 3,500 calories of reduction will result in 1 pound of fat loss, what are we going to do? Say, oops, my bad, I was wrong, who knew? We're very likely to just wipe it under the rug or brush it under the rug. But we're not doing it, we're not doing our clients any services there. We're not doing them any favors. We need to tell them there's no magic formula when it comes to weight loss. We need to acknowledge their pain that weight loss is difficult. When they lose a pound or two, we need to make a big deal over their weight loss because we now have got a realization of what it is taking them to lose that weight. It's not simple, it's not easy, but hopefully the end result is well worth it, that the end will actually justify the means. But this is what we're laboring under now. And knowing this now, what we're taking a look at is how do we use this information that on the surface might seem to be very, very demotivating, and how do we make this into a major motivator? That's what we're taking a look at now. How do we make it into a major motivator? Well, we go into what is now referred to as the motivational interview. In the motivational interview, we are not doing the talking, the client is. We're saying, okay, knowing that this is not going to be easy, knowing that this is going to be difficult, what are you willing to do? We're saying things like, okay, let's go back to our example of Ted. You're going to exercise for 20 minutes 4 times a week. When? When are you going to do this? Tell me when. Your lunch hour? After work? After dinner? Before work? When are you going to find the time? When are you going to be able to squeeze this into your busy schedule? We want to know what they're willing to do to lose fat. And you know what? We don't like the word sacrifice, but this is a sacrifice. They have got to give something up to achieve a greater goal. What are you willing to sacrifice for weight loss? Right or wrong, here's one of my litmus tests that I use when I do weight management counseling to see if people are serious or not. Here's the thing. For those of you guys who know me, you know that I am not a young man. I'm pushing 60 with both hands. I have been fortunate enough to maintain my lean mass for pretty much my entire adult life. I'm still wearing the Levi's, the same size that I wore when I was in college. And this is not to blow my own horn, certainly not, because I know that you guys are all fit people, and if, like me, you were of a certain age, you know that staying fit at 40 or 50 or 60 is way different than being fit at 20 or 30. I think we can all agree on that. Okay, but here's where I'm going with this. As part of my weight management counseling, I counsel a lot of heavy middle-aged men. That is kind of like my demographic, heavy middle-aged men. And very often they say, Guy, you know, you're my age, you're older than me, you're lean, what do you do? And here's what I attribute a lot of my weight control to on a personal level. A, I eat very, very few refined carbohydrates. You know, I know that a dish of ice cream or a bowl of pasta is not going to kill me, but it's not how I make my diet. But more importantly, I don't drink. I gave up drinking years ago for no other reason than because I was in my mid-30s putting on weight. And when I stopped drinking, the weight came off. So when I look at these middle-aged, overweight guys, and I say, well, here's what I do to maintain lean mass. I don't drink. And they generally look at me and they say, oh, what else do you do? And you know what? With that question, I know right there there's a limit to what they will do to lose weight. Because in my little mind, what I'm saying is, you know what? They like drinking alcohol more than they would like being lean. And that's fine. That is their choice. That is their value system. I would never dispute it. But having said that, I know that their weight loss is going to be even slower than it might be otherwise. And remember, it's already a slow process. Their weight loss is going to be even slower than it was otherwise, and that they might not achieve the results they want. Because you know what? We're right back to everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. So I know now there are limits to what they're willing to sacrifice. In my case, I like being lean more than I could ever like alcohol. In their case, maybe not. And we all have, you know, with experience, that's the beautiful thing about experience, we all have our litmus tests for what we think will make somebody successful or not. But there's always exceptions. There's always people that surprise us. So we need to be careful not to stereotype people and put them into little niches based on who they are or what they say, or what we think the results might be. Because really it's all a matter of energy. How much energy are they willing to devote overall to their fat loss? So achieving healthy weight, we know it's not easy, and we need to acknowledge that. The old days of saying simplistically, well, just lose 500 calories a day and there you go, those days are gone. It's not easy. We know that weight loss is still calories in, calories out. That has not changed. That has not changed. What has changed is our understanding of how many calories need to go out to achieve weight loss. And one of the ways we still achieve weight loss is we eat less. We eat less every darn meal starting right now. When possible, we drink water in lieu of alcohol or of soda or of sugary fruit drinks and fruit beverages. We drink water. We know that one of the ways to achieve healthy weight is to cook. I know that in some circles, in some parts of the country, cook is a vile, foul, four-letter word. But you know what? If we eat out a lot, if we eat processed food, prepared foods, we get more sugar, more fat, and more salt than anything we can get at home. It's that simple. There's a big difference between broiling a piece of chicken, steaming some broccoli, and throwing a baked potato in the oven, in the microwave, than getting a comparable meal in takeout or in a restaurant. We need to cook. And remember, please hear what I'm saying. I am not minimizing the value of exercise. Certainly not. We need to move every day. We've got the realization, though, that weight loss is not going to be achieved, especially significant weight loss, by exercise alone. They've got to eat less every meal right now. Also, another current emerging trend is that more and more we are seeing a recommendation for people to weigh themselves every day or every other day. Again, how different is that from how we were taught? Many of us were taught, oh, don't weigh in, because they could be losing fat, gaining muscle, and gaining weight, and then they'll be demotivated. It's absurd. It's absurd. The human animal, we were not, metabolically, we are not able to gain muscle at more than about 2 pounds per week. And even that is extremely difficult. If your client is gaining more than 2 pounds per week, guess what? It's not muscle, they're gaining fat. And the rationale behind the wisdom of weighing in every day or every other day is that if we have gained a pound or two, it is way easier to lose a pound or two than to wait until we've accumulated 5, 8, 10 pounds, which is going to be a whole lot more difficult to lose. So that's the rationale behind the emerging trend of weighing in on a regular basis. Okay? Now, we covered a fair bit of ground in an hour. Hopefully you have found some things to think about. Hopefully this will be a catalyst for you to do some more research, to look at some more data. And again, those of you guys who know me, you know that I'm kind of a research geek. I like being able to document things. You know, back in the days when I would go to a continuing education seminar and the presenter would spout these unlikely details or factoids, I'd be like, where is she getting that? Is she just making that up? Where is it coming from? So as I've gone through our discussion this evening, I've shared the research as it came up, but also this slide and the next two is more detail on some selected references, okay? Some selected references. They're all pointing in the exact same direction of, where did that come from? All pointing in the exact same direction of why we lose weight, how we lose weight, how many calories it takes to lose a pound of fat. So we've got some selected references here for you, a fair number of them, and hopefully what this will be is just a way to keep your research going, keep your study going, okay? If you've noticed, I've tried to use the most current research that we've got available. With a couple of exceptions, most of them date no earlier than 2011, 2012, with the exception of the Kessler book that goes back to 2009. So trying to use the most up-to-date research that's available. Okay? So that is the gist of the discussion. If you've got any questions or comments or snide remarks, feel free when you print out your certificate of completion to leave comments there. If you would like a response, just mention that in the comments section, and I will do my best to respond to you as timely as possible. Feel free, I encourage you strongly to check out the blog of Zoe Harcum because, again, I personally, I just think very highly of what she's doing and how she's doing it. And finally, as we wrap up our hour, here's how to get your CEC certificates. Essentially, my friends, what you're going to do is view the complete webinar, and realistically, if you're to this slide, you've viewed the complete webinar. Turn your printer on. Go to our website at exerciseetc.com. Click on Administration tab. Click on Webinars on Demand. Complete the fields. Feel free to leave comments and hit Submit. Like magic, your CEC certificate will appear on the screen. Then you can either save it or print it or both. And even if you don't have a printer, go ahead and do the form anyway and save it. And even if you can't save it, do the form anyway, because we keep it on file for 5 years. And if you ever need a replacement certificate, we can just email it to you in a matter of seconds. And that is pretty much it for our discussion, okay? We will end with my dog and my cat, because you've got to smile when you see a dog and a cat staring at an iguana. And thank you very much for your time and your patience this evening. Thank you for your loyalty to Exercise, etc. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much.